Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at a very unique video. We're going to be looking at Kings and Generals video on Subutai, also known as Genghis's greatest general. So yeah, when we covered Subutai in the Mongol season 1, I was impressed. Like his adventures into Europe and whatnot, and just the devastation he brought, and the way he was basically untouchable was kind of amazing. Like, the dude was he left an impression. Like, he really was the MVP of the Mongol army, and uh like I said, he is the figure that shocked me the most, because obviously everyone talks about Genghis Khan himself, but like the fact that Subutai was just there and like did what he did just astounded me. And so having an in-depth video solely devoted to him, um I can't lie, I'm really excited to see way more of this dude and everything he did in his life. So yeah, if you want to watch the original video yourself by Kings and Generals, the link is down in the description down below. It's always the first. And if you like my content and want to help me out, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help my small but humble channel grow, and I'd appreciate it a lot. Now with that said, and without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let us watch Subutai, Genghis's greatest general.
Of all the generals of the Mongol Empire, none stand taller than Subutai, who led armies from China across Iran, the Caucasus, Russia, and into Eastern Europe. Yet Subutai remains a murky figure, with difficult-to-assess primary sources, providing fertile ground for all manner of myths to grow instead. Utilizing the latest scholarship and medieval materials, we will paint for you a more accurate biography of one of history's fiercest generals. Subutai, the most common form of his name on the internet, comes from the Chinese rendering of his name. Numerous transliterations of his name exist, but perhaps the best approximation of the Mongolian is Subadai. The common epithet attached to his name, Ba'atar, signifies bravery and is often translated as hero or knight.
I think he lived up to his name, for the Mongol side at least. He was a terror to everyone else, though. I'm such a name nerd. I used to have this phase where I would just kind of Google names and their meanings, and kind of like, oh, what does your name mean? What does, what is someone with this name gonna be like? Or stuff like that. I used to be really into it. Cool little fact, my name, Edwin, means rich friend. So, yeah, which is great. If only I wasn't broke, I think I might end up living to my name. But unfortunately I'm broke, so I don't fully live up to Edwin. But either way, I think I also don't really have any friends. So yeah, my name's kind of a problem. Either way, unless you count God. Like, I'm friends with God, but I have no human friends on Earth, so I don't know. Either way, let's get back to this video now.
Subutai was born in 1176 to the Uriyangkat Mongols. Modern writers often confuse these nomadic pastoralists in the Mongolian steppe with the Turkic Uriyangkai of the forests north of Mongolia, who were reindeer herders. This has resulted in the common misconception that Subutai was a Tuven. However, the medieval sources clearly identify Subutai as a man of the steppe, whose family herded sheep in close contact with Chinggis's for 5 generations, a sub-lineage of the tribe Genghis Khan belonged to. Subutai learned to ride a horse, shoot a bow, hunt and herd animals from a young age, the basic skills for steppe warfare. As a young boy, he found a role model in Temujin. Around 1185, Temujin was elected as Khan of the Burjigon clan. Subutai attended this meeting, accompanied by his brother Saurkan and cousin Jelma. and the young man attached himself to this rising warlord. In 1203, Temujin suffered a devastating setback. Defeated in battle by his former allies, he fled to Lake Baljuna. Slowly, his forces trickled in, among them Subutai's father, Kaban, driving a flock of sheep to feed Temujin's hungry men. As described in the Yuan Shi, Kaban was captured by robbers. Subutai and his brother Tsaokan followed the tracks and ambushed the robbers, killing several and sending the rest fleeing. Their father was rescued, and they brought the sheep to Temujin. Temujin rewarded this loyalty. Tsaokan was made a commander of 100, and Subutai was enrolled into the Keshik, the Guard. By 1206, Temujin had unified Mongolia, becoming Genghis Khan. Subutai was among those rewarded.
That is cool. And seeing how far they go back and kind of having, yeah, no wonder Subutai, looked up to Genghis and was so loyal. Like, they go way back, you know. That's really cool. That origin story there. And, seeing their relationship, how it blossomed and, you know, they became definitely closer to that. That's really cool.
It was not without sacrifice, as his older brother had died in the fighting against the Naiman in western Mongolia. Subutai was appointed to command a Mingan, 1,000 men. His reputation as a ferocious warrior was already established, and he was noted among Genghis Khan's 4 dogs of war. Unlike Genghis's 4 horses, who were Genghis Khan's personal friends, the 4 dogs were the deadliest of his warriors. To paraphrase the secret history of the Mongols, the 4 horses were the men at Genghis's side, while the 4 dogs were those charging wherever the Khan pointed. Brutal, daring.
That is really cool. I did not know about the horse and dog comparisons. I don't remember Kings and Generals ever bringing that up in, the Mongol series. But, seeing, hearing that now and knowing that, Subutai, yeah, I could see why he's one of the 4. Again, the man, I guess, behind Genghis himself is the best general of the Mongol army, And it's really a testament to Genghis's reforms that, someone like Subutai could rise and, through that great merit and be someone who we could all remember to this day as a great general and leader. So definitely, they're really, really cool.
Often cruel, yet utterly loyal, the 4 dogs were Genghis's swords to wield against Asia. It was in this service that Subutai would excel. Subutai's only mention in the first years of the war in China is in 1212, when he was the first on the walls of Huanzhou. He was richly rewarded, and for his courage he was called Ba'ata. Jebe Noyan went on a long-ranging raid across the Jin Empire in 1213 through Manchuria and took one of the Jin capitals, Tungqing. Subutai had possibly accompanied him on this campaign. By 1216, Genghis Khan was in Mongolia dealing with rebellions, while Subutai was to accompany Genghis's son Jochi far across the western steppes in pursuit of merchants who had fled Mongolia. This was the Mongol Empire's first great expansion west of the Altai Mountains. Before they set out, the secret history of the Mongols has Genghis provide Subutai an iron-reinforced cart for the journey. This statement may be the origin for the myth that Subutai was immensely overweight and that no single horse could carry him.
Wow, like I said, other than when we saw Subutai in action, across Iran and Eastern Europe, never got the impression that the dude was fat or anything. I guess this is where many of the myths and stories and legends around this guy start to spring up. But that's hilarious. Basically called him a fat butt. That's kind of funny. you know, if true, but I don't know. I wonder if horse riding would get you fat though. Like, doesn't horse riding require some type of, well, never mind, forget it. I'm not sure. Let's get back to the video.
Requiring instead specially made carts. Such an image has no basis in the historical materials. In two battles over late 1218 and early 1219, Subutai and Jochi defeated the Merkits and their Kangli allies. During the long trek back to Mongolia, the ruler of the vast Khwarezmian Empire, Muhammad II, intercepted them somewhere in central Kazakhstan. Jochi and Subutai informed Shah Muhammad that they had no quarrel with him, but Muhammad had come looking for a fight and drew his army up for battle. Outnumbered, the Mongols fought fiercely, the right wings of both armies pushing back the opposing left until darkness forced them apart. Lighting fires to make it appear they were setting up camp, the Mongols instead moved on. Still, horrified by the losses in this encounter, the Shah developed a phobia of facing the Mongols in open battle. Jochi and Subutai returned to Genghis in late summer 1219, when news came of the infamous Otrar massacre, during which the governor of Otrar murdered the merchants sent by Genghis. The Khan immediately ordered Jebe, Jochi and Subutai to set out with Genghis to invade the Khwarezmian Empire. Shah Muhammad relied on city garrisons, believing the Mongols lacked siege capabilities. He was sorely mistaken. By spring 1220, the northern frontier of Khwarezm collapsed. Muhammad fled deeper into his empire, and Genghis Khan unleashed Jebe and Subutai after him. While Muhammad was their primary goal, as they went, they took the submission of cities. Shah Muhammad was tracked to Hamadan, where Jebe and Subutai lost his trail. We know that the Khwarezmian ruler later died of pneumonia. Jebe and Subutai pinballed across the Caucasus and northwestern Iran over the next 2 years, razing and subduing cities, until mid-1222, when messengers came from Genghis Khan with permission to attack the Kipchaks north of the Caucasus. Striking the enemy from unexpected directions was always a favourite ploy of Genghis Khan, and the Kipchaks had already shown themselves as enemies by allying with the Merkits and fighting for the Khwarezm Shah. While passing north, Jebe and Subutai took the city of Shamaki, employing a particularly gruesome tactic. To mount the walls, corpses of locals and livestock were piled into a platform.
Oh my god.
Such tactics contributed to a dread reputation designed to discourage resistance.
Dude. Yo, that's wild. Oh, that is wild, dude. Holy crap.
Upon exiting the Caucasus, they were confronted by a larger force of Alans and Kipchaks. They bribed the Kipchaks into abandoning the Alans, defeated the latter, and then attacked the unsuspecting Kipchaks.
I remember when Subutai did use a lot of trickery. I noticed, he would be like, "Oh, I'll do this if you do this for me," and then immediately like turn on them. Like that's something that also caught my attention from the Mongol season 1 videos, is how much the Mongols, especially Subutai, would just deceive, trick, and you know, his enemies. He was very cunning in that way. And he wasn't above, you know, using underhanded tactics, which is something that, you know, got him really far. Can't deny he was effective, at least.
Killing their most powerful leaders. Survivors fled west under Kotjan Khan to the Rus, where the Khan organized an alliance between his son-in-law, Prince Mstislav of Galicia, and several other Rus princes. Modern retelling often presents the following engagement on the Kalka River as a masterfully orchestrated plan, but historian Stefan Pau questions this narrative. Often overlooked is the lead-up to the battle, where Rus chronicles describe a Mongol general, Hamabek, being caught and killed. Pao argues that Hamabek is how the Rus interpreted Yamabeg, the Turkic form of Jebe's name. Jebe was the senior officer and something of a mentor to Subutai, who was now thrust for the first time into independent command thousands of kilometers from reinforcement. The famous 9-day feigned retreat which followed may therefore have been an actual retreat. The Kipchak and Rus pursued until Subutai noticed they had strung themselves out. At the Kalka River in May 1223, Subutai turned about and brought the full weight of his army against the leading Kipchaks, who broke. Fleeing Kipchaks collided with the Rus, breaking their formation as Mongol arrows rained upon them. The result was a massacre. Survivors on a nearby hill briefly resisted before being
insane. But yeah, Jebe being a mentor and the leader is not the impression that I got in the. Again, I keep talking about the Mongol season 1 because that's when we were introduced. Definitely he put a lot more emphasis on Subutai instead of Jebe, I feel. So it's interesting to see that, you know, this is where Subutai came into his own. First time independent command, and this is where he started like making his I guess you can say marks. So that's interesting to me.
Convinced to surrender by Subutai. With their guards dropped, most of the Rus were slaughtered and their leaders smothered under boards the Mongols feasted upon.
My goodness, the Mongols are so brutal. Like, honestly, terrifying. And again, Subutai just keeps lying. Like I said, that trickery and that cunning he has, it's what also kind of frightened me about him. Like, he'll say anything until the enemy can let their guard down, and then he'll immediately jump on you. So, yeah.
Still, Subutai was in no position for further conquest. On the return journey in late 1223 or early 1224, Subutai's forces passed through the territory of the Volga Bulgars, where the Mongols were ambushed and many were killed. Subutai had to limp back to Mongolia. Often termed as the Great Raid, this is a modern extrapolation, and the contemporary sources present it as a failed conquest. The secret history of the Mongols simply describes the entire campaign as Subutai Ba'ata was put in a difficult situation by these peoples. Subutai knew he would need to return in overwhelming force to complete.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of really like this video because it's definitely tearing down like he mentioned, there's a lot of myths with Subutai, right? And again, his portrayal of him, even in the videos of the Mongol season 1 that we saw, definitely gave him this vibe of invincibility and just going around and wreaking havoc on literally everybody unopposed. I like this video because it really humanizes him, kind of like a guy coming up to the ranks, perhaps an attack right there, like, I don't know, like, I feel like this video definitely is humanizing the man, in a really effective way, and showing that, yeah, definitely a great general, but he was human like anyone else. So, I like that aspect of this video.
The conquest. At that time, Genghis was preparing for the final campaign against the Tangut, but told Subutai to visit his parents, who he had not seen in a decade.
Wow.
Subutai simply responded, "If the emperor will be busy working and the vassal will be at rest, my heart will be in deep uneasiness."
I love the work ethic. Dude hasn't seen his frickin' family in a decade, and he's still like, nah, bro, I can't rest while you aren't resting. Like, dude is, he is in it. Wow. That speaks volumes of his character. I love that.
He led the conquest of Tangut in 1226, cutting off the western half of their kingdom and sacking numerous counties along the Tangut-Jin frontier in Gansu, ensuring no aid would come from that direction. It was here that he learned of his master's death in August 1227. Chinggis's death must have crushed Subutai, for he was the single most influential person in his life. Attending the coronation.
Yeah, in a way, he was kind of his hero. You know, like, he looked up to the guy since he was a kid. He followed him loyally throughout his life. Yeah, it's like the death of your hero, you know what I mean? Like, I imagine he was devastated. I love this video. I love the way it humanizes Subutai, you know?
Coronation of Chinggis's son Ogedai as Khan in 1229, Subutai was rewarded with an imperial princess as a wife. Ogedai quickly resumed the war with the Jin dynasty. An army commanded by Dokulku was defeated at Dachangyuan in the beginning of 1230, and Ogedai led an army against the Jin, accompanied by Tolue and Subutai. With the Jin dynasty's northern border protected by the Yellow River, and its southern by the neutral Song, access was through the mountains guarding Henan province's west, a route blocked by the—
Yeah, I'm really enjoying seeing a bit more of Subutai exploits after his time in Europe, because I feel like we didn't get much info of him after those campaigns from Kings and Generals. So this is definitely cool to see what he did after Genghis Khan, you know what I mean? And that, yeah, the dude was still working, still fighting, getting rewarded with, you know, a wife. Like, yeah, dude, like, good on him.
The formidable Tongguan fort. Not desiring to be stuck in a long siege, Ogedai sent Subutai to find a route through the hills to the south. Subutai forced a smaller pass, ransacking towns in western Henan until his forces became spread out, and the Jin general Chen Hesheng cornered and defeated him at Daohui-gu. Suffering heavy losses of both men and horses, Subutai retreated to a furious Ogedai. The Khan was so enraged he removed Subutai from command, and nearly did Subutai disappear from history if Ogedai's brother Tolue did not vouch for him.
Dang, dude. Again, like, just seeing the more human side, seeing that even he lost someone this decorated in military experience and exploits, and, you know, even he could lose a battle and get beaten back. And the fact that Ogedai almost straight up got rid of him is insane. Wow.
A new strategy was decided on. A triple-pronged attack against the Jin borders, wherein Tolue and Subutai were to bypass Tongguan entirely, cutting south through Song territory to come out behind Jin lines. In late 1231, they penetrated the Song frontiers. After a few weeks of plundering, they cut north into the Jin Empire. The lead Jin generals, Hua and Hada, skirmished with Tolue and Subutai in early 1231, when the Mongols were surrounded on Sanfeng Mountain. When a snowstorm blew over the armies, Subutai told Tolue to wait it out, as the hardy Mongols could endure it better than the Jin. After 3 days, deeming the Jin were suitably weakened, the Mongols charged down the hill and routed them. The captured general Hada asked for death, with his final wish to lay eyes on Subutai. Perplexed when he heard of this, Subutai came to see the captive Hada, telling him, "Will die momentarily, why do you want to see me?" To which Hada replied, "Each of us vassals work for our respective masters. You are braver than other generals, and by nature you are a hero. Could that all really be random chance? I have met you, and now I shall die in peace."
Dang. That whole situation was unique. Again, what a flex. Literally winter comes and he's like, we can rough it out and then just attack them and win. And then here it's like, dude, Hada, you know the saying, game respects game. And yeah, he just needed to see this dude, like, holy crap. knew who he was and everything. That's amazing. That was kind of really cool. I interpret that as a respect kind of moment. Um, yeah.
Linking up with Ogedai's army, Tolui and Ogedai returned north, leaving Subutai as supreme commander. The general immediately invested the Jin capital, Kaifeng. It took a year for the city to fall, in which time the Jin emperor escaped and many losses were inflicted on the Mongols. When Subutai alerted Ogedai to the city's final surrender in early 1233, he was prepared to carry out the standard practice of massacre for resisting. Ogedai was convinced by his advisor, Yelu Chitsai, to spare the inhabitants. What followed is perhaps the most illustrative example of Subutai's personality. Subutai was ordered to limit killing to just members of the Jin imperial family. He killed only who he needed to, and allowed the rest north of the Yellow River to organize food shipments for the beleaguered population. Subutai's biographer in the Yuan Shi goes as far as to say the people appreciated him for his efforts. Subutai
Dang, like I said, when I was introduced to this man, you know, in season 1 of the Mongols, I was like, this man's a demon, like, everything he was doing, like, but, like, I really love this video because it really humanizes him and shows, you know, that he, again, it's showing this human side of Subutai that I really love, and that really makes him so much more cooler to me and shows how human and complex he truly is. I mean, obviously he was a human, I was aware of that, but it's good to have more info, you know what I mean? And, again, like, guy really does live up to his name now, huh? I don't know, I really... It's hard not to respect a guy, I think.
led the final push against the Jin, ending their dynasty in 1234. Back in Mongolia by 1235, Subutai took part in the organization of the Great Western Campaign. He was the senior commander, alongside the leading princes of the third generations of Chinggisids under Batu. Over 1236, they swallowed up the Western Steppe. From 1236 to 37, the Volga Bulgars, Kipchaks and Mordvins were subjugated. The divided Rus principalities were quickly picked off, and from 1237 to 1240, the Rus cities were burned. Few cities lasted as long as 2 weeks, although Mongol losses were incurred. By the start of 1241, Subutai and Batu had brought the Mongol Empire to the edge of Europe, splitting their forces to take multiple routes through Poland, Hungary and Transylvania. Subutai wanted to draw the Hungarian royal army onto ground of his choosing, forcing them to cross an exposed bridge over the Shayo River, where on the far bank the tree line would hide flanking Mongol forces. King Bela IV foiled this by not crossing the bridge. The new plan was for Batu to force the bridge, while Subutai tried to cross downriver and outflank the Hungarians. Either impatient...
The flank. The oldest trick in the book. But, yeah, the dude was wilding, bro. Like, he fought everywhere. You know, Iran, Europe, China. Like, dude fought everywhere. What great experience. Like, a life of just war. Wow.
Or due to Subutai being behind the schedule, Batu charged the bridge too early.
My name is Rodney.
Wait, good. Sorry, I need to keep checking OBS so it doesn't break on me. But, dang, tisk.
Resulting in heavy losses and the Mongols being repulsed. A new plan was used, overcoming the bridge guard early on April 11th with catapults. The Mongols soon encircled and destroyed the Hungarians. Despite the success, some Mongol princes were apprehensive of pressing on after the costly fighting. But Subutai shamed them for their cowardice, telling them, "If my lord wishes to retreat, then retreat by yourself." Until I reach Bacha city on the Danube River, I will never return. The loyal dog of
Dang, this dude, like, you know, he kind of has a characteristic of a dog, and I mean that in the best way possible. As a dog person myself, a big fan of a dog owner and whatnot. Dogs, I feel like a key trait about them is, loyalty. And, you know, and I feel like this man is so loyal to the cause that he's willing to, like, even, you know, kind of like not even let himself rest. He could easily be like, yeah, we can leave, or, you know, give yourself a break. Yeah, I can go visit my family, sure. But he's like, no, I can't do that, not while there's still work to do. His work ethic is insane. Again, he is so loyal. Like, this is really the best guy you could have under your banner, you know?
Genghis Khan had to whip his grandchildren into shape. They pressed onwards, pushing as far as Austria, until the Mongol withdrawal began at the end of March 1242. Finding their catapults and siege techniques ineffective against stout stone fortifications, Batu and Subutai desired to step back and re-strategize. The withdrawal from Hungary was methodical, campaigning as they went to reduce whoever survived the first pass. Subutai stayed with Batu up to the Volga River, where in late 1243 the latter set his permanent encampment. Subutai scolded Batu for refusing to attend the Kurultai in Mongolia to elect Ogedai's successor, but before departing, Subutai and Batu came to peace regarding the losses at the Battle of Mohi. In time, Batu gave thanks to Subutai, attributing to him their successes. Subutai was in Mongolia by 1246 to meet the new Khan of Khans, Ogedai's son Guyuk. By then, Subutai was one of the few left who had personally known Genghis Khan. John de Plano-Carpini, present at Guyuk's enthronement, mentions the elderly Subutai, a figure of immense respect among the Mongols. Later that year, Subutai went on his—
Rightfully so, man, like, dude is amazing. I'm like a huge fan of Subutai now. You know what I mean? Like, dang. I'm a huge fan of the guy.
Final campaign, a brief incursion against the Song dynasty. Guyuk's death in early 1248 ended this campaign prematurely, and Subutai returned to Mongolia to finally retire from military service. He died later that year, somewhere along the Tula River, aged 73. This most—
Wow. Dang, he lived to be very old, which is impressive, you know? At least he got to go out peacefully. Like, a lot of generals and commanders we follow don't really have happy endings. Hannibal, Napoleon, Caesar, Alexander. I mean, Alexander did go out on the top of his game and all, but I imagine dying young while still a lot of his ambitions, future ambitions not fully complete. Probably I don't think he left happy. You know, even like so many of these men of war don't really have happy endings, even the greats, you know? Even Khalid kind of died depressed. But I guess, I mean, this might change if he just says right now Subutai was miserable in his final years. But as of right now, it seems like he just got to like chill and finally be at rest. Which again, most great generals don't really go out like that, you know? They're just being able to retire and die peacefully. And for the most part, I assume, I mean, I don't know how he felt, but I like to think maybe he went out peacefully or content knowing he did and lived his life in service and did everything he could. So I don't know. Definitely a happier ending than most, you know, in his profession as a general and commander.
famous of all Mongolian generals, was one of the few to die of old age. His sons continued to serve as commanders, with the most well-known being Uriyankadai, who served Kublai Khan in China and occupied Tang Long, modern Hanoi, in Vietnam. Uriyankadai's son, Aju, was another of Kublai Khan's generals, but his descendants picked up the pen instead of the bow. Aju's son, Olyanjadai, was an administrator well known for his leniency, while his own son, Tongtong, was a scholar and academic. After him, the lineage of Subutai disappears from the sources.
Wow.
Utterly loyal to Genghis Khan, almost no other commander in history traveled so many kilometers or participated in so many battles. Depending on how one counts, Subutai fought in over 50 battles and sieges against almost every major power of the 13th century, though despite some claims, he was not undefeated. Subutai had no care for administration or governance, only in carrying out the Khan's will against his enemies. A man made for war, Subutai played a key role in the establishment of history's largest contiguous land empire. We will talk about Mongol history more in the coming.
Dang, dude. The man was a warrior. Again, he lived up to his name. And rip Subutai, man. Dude was awesome. I'm glad to have learned about him. That guy, he rocked.